Welcome everyone to our Workday 101 for the 2024 annual increase. I'm Nikki Sitton. I'm an HR technology change management specialist facilitating this call today, and I have Michelle Andelsek. She is a senior compensation consultant.
Thank you, Nikki. I am happy to be here, and thank you everyone for joining us today.
All right, if you have any questions during the presentation, we ask that you hold them until the end. We'll have an open forum at the end to address your questions, or you can even enter them in the chat. Our agenda today is quite simple. We are going to look at the 2024 annual increase timeline. We'll talk about who is eligible for lump sum payments, and then general eligibility. We'll talk about the action that's required from people leaders and look at resources that are available in Workday. And then Michelle will provide us with a demonstration for the annual increase process. So let's start off with Michelle talking us through the 2024 annual increase timeline.
Thank you, Nikki. So jumping right into the timeline, as a reminder, only employees who are actively employed prior to March 1st are eligible to participate in the annual increase process. Also, the annual increase process will open in Workday for leaders to view on June 3rd, and it will remain open until June 17th. During that time frame, leaders will have the ability to review their rosters for accuracy. The increases themselves are effective June 16th and will be paid on the July 5th checks. And then an important date to note is June 19th, which is when the process will be finalized in Workday and the individual statements will generate and be released for leaders to download. And those statements are what should be used to have the individual conversations with your team members. And those conversations should occur prior to July 3rd.
All right, thanks, Michelle. So what are some things that are important to know about the annual increase process?
A few things that are important to know. One, this cycle includes team members below the vice president level, and no approval actions are required by leaders, just viewing for accuracy is all we're asking. The 2024 increases will be a flat 3%. There are no discretionary adjustments. The participant data in the Workday module will pre-populate at that 3%, so there's nothing you need to do there. That's just something to note. And then also base pay adjustments will not exceed the pay range maximums.
Okay, Michelle, but what if someone is at or above the pay range maximum?
That would bring in the lump sum payments. And for lump sums, there are a few things that we can note. One, team members who are at the maximum of the pay range will receive a 3% lump sum. Also, if they are close to the pay range maximum, they'll be brought to that maximum, and then the rest will be paid by lump sum if they weren't able to get a 3% on their base. And then also team members paid above the maximum of the range will still receive that lump sum payment, but it will be based on the max of the range rather than their pay rate. And then note at the bottom here, PRN team members will not receive lump sum payments.
Okay, so I see that PRN team members are excluded in lump sum payments, but are there other inclusions and exclusions we should consider?
There are. So in general, those that are included in the annual increase process would be all of our regular full-time and part-time team members, and that does include additional jobs. And also PRN employees are eligible for the annual increase. However, there is one caveat to that, and that is employees who are in the non-RN PRN4 jobs that are also known as travel at home or TAH. Those are not included in this process either. So then the exclusions from this process would be anyone hired on or after March 1st, 2024, anyone who's in a temporary status, physicians, students, interns, any production-based team members, residents, any contingent or contract workers, and then also team members who are on a final corrective action as of the effective date of the increase, June 16th.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarification. So Michelle, what are we asking leaders to do for the annual increase process?
We are asking for leaders to review their direct reports within the roster once the increase process is launched. And if they do see any discrepancies, to share that with their HR partner to get any corrections made. They are asked not to communicate the proposed increases until notification is received from the HR VP that the process has been finalized, and that will happen on June 19th. So after that notification is received that the annual increase cycle is finalized, we are asking leaders to export their statements for the individual employees and then use those statements to have the conversations with team members, and to do that prior to July 3rd.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's look at what a roster looks like within the annual increase process.
Okay, so when you are reviewing your roster within the annual increase process, it will look something like this. And what should be displayed is your list of direct report team members. One thing to note is if someone is listed twice, that simply means they have more than one job under your leadership. So if they have a primary and an additional job, they may show up twice on your list. If that additional job is under another leader, it will show up on that leader's list. So you may only see that person once. So that's probably the main question that we get. Other than that, it should really just be your direct report employees. And this is a case where if you see something that's off, somebody that's not in your soup org, that's when you would want to connect with your HR partner to check into that. So as far as the actual roster, there are a few columns here. This orange column, that is the maximum pay amount. So that's the maximum of the pay range that the employee is in. And if their rate or the rate after the 3% increase exceeds that amount, that's when you'll see a full or maybe a partial lump sum payment. The navy column is their current base pay amount, and that's simply their rate before the increases go into effect. And then the next column, which is in green, is the rate after the increases go into effect. The teal column, that is the lump sum payment amount. And in this scenario, we don't have anyone who's receiving a lump sum payment, but if you had a team member who's receiving a lump sum payment, this is the column where you would see the amount of that payment. Also to note, the purple box on the side is what will show up if you click on an individual employee's line within your roster. So we see Dwight is highlighted here and his information is over on the right. This is just some additional information like the hire date, continuous service date, and whether they are in a primary or an additional job, and if they're regular or PRN. So as you click through the different employee lines, you'll see that information for those individuals.
Okay, thank you so much, Michelle. So, how should people leaders and HR partner together during this annual increase process?
So the HR partnership throughout this process is HR will be supporting leaders navigating through the process, of course, and then also reminding them to retrieve those notifications and the statements from the Workday inbox when those are available. They are also going to be a resource in encouraging leaders to engage in those personal conversations prior to July 3rd. And also, of course, the compensation team is here for any questions as well.
So, Michelle, you really prefer that questions regarding the annual increase process be directed to compensation and not people services, correct?
They should connect, leaders should connect directly with their HR partners for the annual increase questions. And then compensation is, of course, here as a resource. But we should always loop in market HR first. But correct, they should not be putting in Ask HR tickets or contacting people services with those questions.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarification. So, Michelle, let's talk about resources that are available in Workday about annual increase.
Okay, so there's a couple of things that will be available for leaders in Workday in terms of resources. So we will have a job aid available in the Ask HR app under Resources for Managers. This will be titled 2024 Annual Increase Guide. And currently the 2023 one is still out there. The 2024 version will be launched on June 3rd, which is the date the process itself launches. You also have, of course, your partnership with HR, and then a recording of this will be in the Workday 101 video library, also under Ask HR.
All right, Michelle, that wraps up our presentation here, but let's go ahead and let's go to the demonstration portion. So I'll have you share your screen and we'll jump right into Workday and look at the annual increase process.
Okay, so now I am going to demonstrate for you how to access the annual increase information in Workday as a leader. As I mentioned before, on June 3rd, you will receive a Workday notification in your My Tasks area for the 2024 annual increase process. So right now I'm logged in as a leader, Oprah Winfrey, and I'm going to click into that process to view it. So My Tasks, and then 2024 annual increase process right here. And I am going to show you how to expand this. There's a couple of arrows here. If you click this, you'll enter full screen mode just so you can see it a little bit better because there's a lot of information here. So initially, you'll just see some help text, and this just talks about who's eligible, who's ineligible, just as some helpful reminders there. And if you scroll to the bottom, this is where you'll see your information. So if you only have one soup org under you, you'll automatically see the list of employees at the bottom, but Oprah has a few. So I'm going to click on this sub-orgs icon, which expands it out to list all the individual organizations under Oprah. So the one with the pencil is going to be her direct reports. So I will click into that to view. And this is Oprah's employee roster. So this is the same as it was shown in the presentation, listing each employee, their current and new rates, the maximum amount, lump sum info if applicable, and also clicking into the individual employees and seeing that information there on the right side. So again, within this process, we're not asking for you to take any action or approve anything, but if you do see anything that's incorrect or off, you would just want to connect with your market HR partner to get that taken care of. So when you're done reviewing this, taking a look at it, if you click continue, it just takes you back to the screen we were on before. So then if Oprah would like to see her indirect reports, she can click on these magnifying glasses here, and that will give her the same list as we viewed before, but just with the different soup orgs. That is what that part looks like. Again, nothing to approve here, just really looking at it and backing out if everything's okay. And that's really all there is to that piece of the process. So the next thing that I will show you is how to print your employees' statements whenever they get released on June 19th. So once you get that notification, you'll come back here into Workday, and up here in the search field, you will want to type view compensation review statements. You'll get this result. Click into that. You'll see this selection screen. For organizations, you would search by typing your name. So for me, it's Oprah. And this brings up my soup org here. You have the option of including subordinate organizations. As you saw, Oprah does have a couple of those. So if I want to include those, I can here. If I'm just running this from my direct reports, I'm just going to leave that unchecked. So I'm going to leave that unchecked for now. And then for the completed compensation review process, right now, the 2024 process is not completed, so you're not going to see that in these options for the demo. So I'm going to pick 2023, but when you go to run this for real, make sure you pick the 2024 version. Then I'm going to click proceed. So this is the result. Once I click proceed, you can pull the individual statements up, but what I'm going to show you how to do is batch them into one file so that you can print them all together for your entire soup org. So once you're in this screen, you would click batch print and then refresh. And then this has started to process. So you'll just want to wait a couple seconds, refresh again. Might have to do that a couple of times. And once it's complete, you'll get this result here on the right, this PDF file. Open that up, and there's 3 pages here. She has 3 employees, so this is a statement for each employee. So then Oprah would be able to then print this file and use these individual statements as her for her conversations with her employees. So just so you can see what the statements look like, they are going to look the same this year as they did last year. So as an example, this employee here, it does list the effective date. It lists the old base pay and the new base pay amount and the % increase. If she were to be receiving a lump sum, you would see that as well. But this employee doesn't have that. So it's a very simple statement, just something to have in hand for having that conversation with the employees. That's the statements. The third thing that I will show you is how to export the information from a report so that you can have it for your reference later if you would like that. This part's optional, but just to let you know it is available for you. So again, you'll come up here to the search bar and you're going to type SSM compensation review calculations employee details, and you get this selection screen here. The compensation review event is going to be the 2024 annual increase. The organization, again, for my purposes here, is going to be Oprah's. So I'm going to search that. And same thing, I'm not going to check this box, but you can do that if you wanted to see your direct and indirect reports on this report. And I'm not going to fill in this box here because I want to see everyone, not just single out one person. So that's all you have to do there. Click OK. Depending on how big your organization is, this report may take a few minutes to run. As this is running, you can always click notify me later so that it runs in the background. Sometimes these take a little bit to run, and also if a lot of people are running at once, it does bog down Workday. So the report that generates with this is really just a more detailed version of the roster that we already looked at. So as you can see, there are a lot of columns on here, a lot more than we saw within the roster. You're going to see things like their position, their soup org, their comp grade with the min, mid, and max, and also the leadership structure here. So this is just really so that you can have it to export if you want for your own records and see everything in one place. So you're able to view this here, or if you would like to export it, you're able to do that as well. You can click on this export to Excel, download it, and then it would be in your downloads at that point, and you can save and do whatever you would like with it. So that concludes the actions that would be needed within Workday to view your annual increase rosters and your employee information and statements. So the only other thing I would like to show you is where the resources are that will be available for you. So if you go to the Ask HR app and down to resources for managers, a couple of things. One, the 2024 annual increase guide will replace this one on June 3rd. So right now you have the 2023 one in here, but it will be replaced by the new one at that point. And then also this Workday 101 for Managers video library has a lot of resources in it. So if you haven't looked at this, I recommend doing so. But for this process, we will be replacing the 2023 annual increase recording with the recording from today for 2024. So that'll be available there. And then again, the guide. So that concludes the demonstration portion. So I will hand it back to you, Nikki.
Thanks, Michelle. All right, at this time, we'll open up the floor for questions. I don't see any in the chat right now, but feel free to use the raise your hand option or just come off mute. I do see a question in the chat. So Michelle, Rhonda is asking, how do managers know which HR partner to contact? And then also, can employees decline the increase?
All right, thank you for that question, Rhonda. As far as who to contact, it would be whichever HR partner you typically work with in your market. So if you don't know who that is, I can probably help you find that out. But typically the leaders have someone that they work with regularly. So it would be whoever that is. And then for the second part of the question, no, employees cannot decline the increase.
Thank you. And thanks for that question, Rhonda. Any other questions from our HR audience? All right. Well, we appreciate your partnership in this 2024 annual increase process. You'll have these resources available to you also in Workday. So we'll post a recording of today's session on the Workday 101 for HR video library. And okay, and Stephanie added a resource in the chat. Workday Action Security Role Support helps identify HR partners. So there's a resource. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions, and thank everyone for your time, and thanks for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.